Hey guys, it's Rish. I am going to be doing another card in my Stampin' with Stella series today. This one is going to be another monochromatic card, this time using frame florets. This is also going to have the frame florets dies. This is a good beginner card with a couple of advanced techniques that are not so advanced once you know them, which would be good for any stampers. So for starters, we are going to use Flirty Flamingo for our color that our monochromatic card is going to be based on. We're going to have a Flirty Flamingo base. And then we are also going to need a white card front. This one's just another card, 2 colors of cardstock. White is essential, so there is not too much that you need for this. I like cards that use minimal supplies, one of those supplies being white because they are really great for beginners. Then for this, we are also going to use some scrap to cut out pieces and to stamp on. Get a couple scraps of white, and then we are just going to cut down this spare piece of flamingo so that we can run it through the dies. For starters, we are going to fold our card base with our bone folder. Nice and easy. Then we are going to run the flower image and the frames through the die cuts. We are going that one, and we are going to need this one. Then for our stamps, we are going to use the flowers and this sentiment. Don't need to stamp the sentiment yet, but we will go ahead and stamp those flowers in Memento so that we can cut them out. Then we are going to use our mini cut and emboss machine. Apologize in advance if this makes the camera a little shaky. We need our base plate, cutting plate. All right, and then we're gonna need the first oval, out of white. And then with this one, the boho blue machine does a little better, but if you have the older model of the white machine, just run it through on a bit of an angle and it goes through just fine. Then we are also going to cut out our flower. Do it over here so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. And then last but not least, we are going to do another oval, the lined oval out of Flamingo. Sorry, I'm trying to keep my camera from being too shaky, so I'm doing this slow. And there are the pieces from that. Okay, now the fun part. I am going to take all of these pieces and do various things with Wink of Stella to really make this card exciting when all you need is just a couple of colors. So with this piece, I am just going to do one of my favorite things, add Wink of Stella around the outside so it'll have a little bit of time to dry. The nice thing about adding Wink of Stella is that it makes the cardstock just a tiny bit darker. So if you compare it to that Flirty Flamingo, it is just the tiniest shade darker. But when you're doing a monochromatic card, that's really fun because it gives you another shade of pink. So that is step one. Then on this piece of white, these two I could use for another card if I wanted to make multiples of this. This one though, we are just going to use our Flirty Flamingo stamp pad and our sentiment and add that to the center. This one is Wishes for a Beautiful Birthday. I love the fonts that they picked on these. There we go. And we can set that aside. Now, when I am doing something that I want to be really monochromatic, I am going to use the ink pad, a block with marker, and also ink refill. So we've got refill, marker, and ink pad. This way you have a little bit more control over these shades that you are getting. So when you are painting with Stella and using these three things, marker is always going to give you the lightest shade, ink pad metal, and refill the darkest, just because of how much ink is concentrated in those areas. So I'm going to start by painting lightest to darkest on this one, just so you guys get to see it really well. So I'm going to do one of these flowers in Flirty Flamingo marker. That way you'll get a nice comparison. And the nice thing about using marker and refill is that you can always add more to the block while you are doing this. You can always re-squeeze an ink pad, but if you don't like getting Stella on your ink pad directly, that might not be best for you. I don't mind it, so it's not something that ever really bothers me. Then I'm going to go in with Wink of Stella mixed with ink pad for our second flower, which as you can see is just a little bit darker of a shade of Flirty Flamingo, but we're all working right here on the same color. Get a little bit more on there. There we go. And then our last one is going to be Flirty Flamingo ink refill. So I'm really going to soak this one in there, get enough sparkle through that color, and use that to paint the two centers. As you can see, still Flirty Flamingo, just a lot darker than the other two. Also going to add this on top of these because Stella will pool a little bit I will add color over top of the black. Then you are going to use the Stella that is still sitting on here for your largest piece of white. If you have seen other videos, you know I usually take a blend, smack it with a bone folder for a splatter background. You can also do that with Wink of Stella and ink refill. It's one of my favorite things to do because then all of this splatter that you're going to get is also going to have shimmer in it. And now you have shimmer dots all over the back. I'm not going to wipe all of this off quite yet because another thing I like to do when doing a monochromatic card is pull in one of our neutrals. So for this one, I'm going to pull in Gray Granite. It's got a gray with a little bit of a brown tinge to it. And I'm going to just mix a little bit of the Flirty Flamingo that's already on here in with some Gray Granite. And you can always wipe out the lid of these stamp cases with a baby wipe before closing them. As you can see, this is giving us a little bit more of a dusty shade of Flamingo, which is what we're going for. Still Flamingo, just a little darker. So with that Gray Granite and Flamingo, we're going to use that on our leaves so they get more of a brown gray tinge. Get a little bit more in there. Let's see if I have my Gray Granite marker close. I want this a little grayer so you guys can really see what I'm talking about. We're just going to add a little bit more ink to this lid. There we go. A little grayer. Now once you've got a tinge more gray, and go over those leaves, you've still got your monochromatic feeling with your Flirty Flamingo. But in here you also have Gray Granite mixed in to give those leaves a little bit of a different color. I love mixing these colors. I think they are really pretty together. And it helps keep it more monochromatic. Trying to paint this so you guys can see it. And this little bit. There you go. Let's give this a quick scrub. Easy enough. Now all you have to do is assemble, and this one is super easy. Just a card base, a little bit of Stampin' Seal, your splatter background. I think there's more splatter at the top, so I'm going to flip it. That dried nicely. And then for this image, I want it popped up. I'm also going to add a little bit of our white frayed ribbon. I think this looks really pretty, so we're tying in the white. I'm going to take about a 3-inch piece, fold it over. Let's see how big this ring is going to be. I think that's good. So I'm just going to put a little bit Stampin' Seal here to hold that in place. And then for this, since I want it popped up, I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals in order to make sure that these two line up. I'm just going to go ahead and put them together like this and add the dimensionals to the back so we don't have any of it crooked. Then you've got all your bases covered. Because these two are not coming apart. Get that over our ribbon a little bit for an edge. Pop this up with Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm gonna do 2 on the edges, and then to make sure it's nice and secure, I'm also gonna add some Stampin' Seal where we are gonna have our overlap to make sure it adheres to our frame a little bit. Make sure you frame that white nicely. And then for a finishing touch on this, I'm going to pull our Wing of Stella back out. And a lot of times when we have a really big sentiment like this, I just like to add a little bit of sparkle to that first letter to really make it pop. And there you are, super quick, super simple monochromatic card. All of the ways you can use Wing of Stella, cardstock, painting, and sentiments, and a splatter background. Hope you liked it.